Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone
and Theron Feidt.
So we talk on this podcast about time management. We talk about habits. We talk about all kinds of things. And a lot of people ask us questions, right? And
Yeah.
I think, the most common questions we get are a lot of times as it pertains to habits, as it pertains to momentum,
Mm-hmm.
and I think one of the things that people struggle with is just getting that momentum, just
Yeah,
getting
for
going.
sure.
And I think, something we're going to talk about on this podcast today is, habits and compounding, micro habits and compounding, and
Right.
how taking little actions can lead to big results, sometimes quicker than I think people think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're discounted because there's, micro so small, not a big deal, doesn't move the needle. Um, it's not super important, but those micro habits lead to larger habits, and especially if you're compounding them, like our title is, they build up. It's similar to the Kaizen principle that we've talked about many times of that constant, never-ending improvement. This is really talking about getting going, though, that first step.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's really the hard part, right? Is because we see,
Yeah.
and we've talked about chunking before, but we see, those things that we have to do as such overwhelming tasks. Sometimes when we're trying to start a new fitness routine, our brain makes it so big,
Hmm.
that now you think about starting martial arts, right? People make it so big, like, oh my God, I have to do this and I have to do this. No, you don't. You
Yeah.
just have to call the dojo. Call the
Yeah.
dojo. And then
Right.
we will give you small steps from there to get it done.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Um, but I think things in general are easier than what people think. It's
Right.
just we make them so big in our head.
Right. Exactly. Yep. So the first part is of this is master the 2 minute entry point. So the mastering the start, the first 2 minutes, and the first part of this is shrink the goal. And so you already alluded to this a little bit in the intro, is make the goal smaller. So I should reterm that. So in your head, make the goal smaller. So chunk it down. In other words, so if I want to read a bunch of books, if I want to read 2 or 3 books a month, what do I need to do? Well, that's overwhelming. It's like, I don't know if I have time. Just start reading, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to read 1 page a day, or I'm going to read 2 pages a day, whatever. Set a goal that's realistic and small, but do it consistently.
Yeah.
Do it every day. So it's small little things that doesn't really put a cramp in your schedule at all, but it gets momentum going.
And I think, part of this, because people say, well, if I know, I always think about flossing teeth. People go, well, if I floss one tooth, I'll floss the other teeth, right? So think
Yeah.
of it small. But I
Yeah.
think, and this does not apply to flossing. This applies to other things. But
Yeah.
put a rule in place where that's it, right? So if you said, I'm just going to read one page, just read one page and then stop, right? Because then you've achieved the goal. Your brain may want to do more, right? But you might just not be ready. So set that rule. You're not allowed to do more than that micro action. So whatever
Right.
you set that micro action to be, stop at the end of it.
Yep. Yeah, and here's the result of it. The result is going to be that you're going to remove the dread of
Hmm.
starting, the dread of how much you need to do. Because what happens is that habit is you're developing the habit. You're like, oh, that wasn't that bad, and so your brain is saying, oh, that was kind of easy. I like this. I'm getting comfortable. And then all of a sudden, you're starting to see results because the compound effect, the
Yeah.
Kaizen principle, all of those, that's what builds and gets you better.
Yeah, 100%. And then I think as we get into habit stacking, which is what we're going to talk about now, I think about things I do every day, just naturally. I make coffee every
Yep.
morning, right? So then part of that is calling that an anchor. That's
Yep.
something I'm already doing that I can start to stack other habits off of.
Right. Yep. So then the whole idea is the formula behind this is after you do your existing habit, whatever that is, interject a new micro habit right away. So I'm going to get coffee. Now I'm going to read a page in the book, right?
Yeah.
And what that does is that ties those two in. So you're doing two things, possibly two things at once, or at least you're tying in the habit that you already have to the new micro habit that you want to work.
Yeah, 100%. Like I walk on the treadmill every day. I add listening to a podcast while I'm doing
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? That helps me work my brain and my body all at the same time. So there's lots of ways to do this, but pick something you're already doing. And really what this does is it uses those neural pathways that you've already built to kind of piggyback, right?
Yep.
So while I'm waiting for the coffee to brew, instead of scrolling my phone, I'm building a habit of reading a page in that book that's been sitting on my table, for 20 years that I haven't gotten through yet, right?
Where did piggyback come from?
I
I
don't
got to
know.
look that up.
Piggyback. Do people
Huh.
ride pigs?
It almost sounds like that. We're gonna have to look this up.
Leapfrog. I know that.
Yeah.
Piggyback.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look that up. That'll
But
be
I
the
mean,
next
that's
episode.
a term that I use too. Piggyback. We're going to piggyback off of that idea. We're going to piggyback, but
That will be our
it's
next episode.
interesting.
What does piggyback mean?
Maybe.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So the third step is creating a minimum viable day. So what that is define your minimum, your floor. And when you do that, you're setting a standard. And standard is really where you're going to start seeing success because it's like a thermostat. If you're a thermostat and you have it set on 70 degrees, once it goes to 69, 68 degrees, what happens? The heat comes on. Once it
Yeah.
goes over 70, 72, what happens? The AC goes on, and so that thermostat, that's how that thermostat works. So what's happening is you're setting a floor. So identifying three micro habits, let's say, three micro habits that are going to keep you on track
Yeah.
on your worst and busiest day. So what are three things that you must do? And again, they're small. They're not huge. They're not going to take 3 hours each or even 1 hour each. They're small little things that you just the must do's, not the would like to do, not the well I should do it.
Yeah.
As I love what Anthony Robbins says, should do's. You just should all over yourself
Yeah.
instead of must do's. I love that little
That's great.
tie on words. Yep. But you turn them into must do's, and that's where you're developing great habits.
And that, I think that's what it is. It's about making it non-negotiable, and making sure
Yep.
that those three things are not, work out for 2 hours. Like that's not a
Yep.
micro task. That's a big task. Are you going to see major results doing one push-up a day for a week? Not immediately, but it's better than doing no push-ups. And then at some point
Yep.
you're going to say, I bet I can do five. I bet I can do 10. But at
Right.
least the habit of doing it is there. So the result that you're going to get is really just not breaking the chain. Even on the bad days, you can do the minimum viable day, right?
Right.
Even when I have a cold right now, I know I can do minimum viable things. Am I going to
Right.
run the way I do when I'm healthy? No. But can I still get on the treadmill, do my walk and all the other stuff? Absolutely. So the result, even on a bad day, you're still a person who executes,
Right.
still maintaining momentum. And I think
Yeah.
momentum is really what this is about.
Yeah. And just to expand on that a little bit, I really enjoy it helps me when I'm like, okay, I had a bad day, but it's better than most people are doing.
Yeah.
Because I like my floor higher so that way I'm still feeling good because I don't feel good about my day or even myself when if there's lazy points in it. That doesn't mean I don't rest because I do rest. I still take a power nap nearly every afternoon to recharge before I get ready for the night. But I have to be productive that day. Even on days off that I'm not working necessarily, I'm still working on something. That doesn't mean the whole day, but I try to raise it up. And it's going to show. You're setting the example for people around you. You're setting the example for your family. And then, I think when you're raising kids, if you're having trouble with your kids, look in the mirror. What kind of habits, what are you showing? What kind of example are you setting?
Yeah.
Because they're gonna obviously they're gonna do what they see, not what you tell them to do. Kids are famous for not doing what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know about your kids, but my kids are always like that. But if they see you in action and they see you doing things that you're supposed to do, that raises their floor, right? And that raises their, so that that's what I like to have. So that's that whole number three thing is make your minimum day better than most everybody's great day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how many times you see Hear parents say they can't get their kids off their device, and then the first thing they do when the kids are doing something is like the parents zero into their device. It's like, yeah, well, they're
And you
watching.
know what? I don't get that. My kids all do sports, and I'm not on my phone when they're up and watching. Now, if they're playing and they're not playing, they're sitting on the bench one time, I might get on my phone because I'm not that interested in the game because I'm not so much of a sports guy. But anytime my kids are up, I'm watching. I'm 100% focused, right?
You
I
you were
just
you were so much of a sports guy that you were like yelling at the little league coach when your kid wasn't playing.
no.
Good for you. But and I think that's 100%, like building that momentum, becoming a person who sticks to it, who keeps going
Yeah.
even on the bad days, makes your bad days better than a lot of people's good days. So let's hit
Right.
these action steps again.
Okay.
Number one is about the 2 minute entry point. It's about shrinking the goal, right? It's about changing that 50-page book to a one page, sticking to that one page, and really building that habit.
Right. Number two is implementing habit stacking. And I remember, I think Trisha Cicero introduced us to this many years
Yeah.
ago in one of
Uh-huh.
the habit stacking. And she was one of the first ones I've heard say it. And it just made a lot of sense. It really moved the needle for me. And I love this. So the whole idea is take a habit that you're already doing, that's already established, and then put another habit on there. The piggybacking one, which we'll get what the origin came from because I'm very interested. And what that does is that anchors it in, but it also gets you to see results because you've already done something. So the energy of your habit that is established and then your new habit combined can make a huge difference.
And then finally, create your minimum viable day, your MVD. Define the floor. What are those three micro habits that can keep you on track, even when you're busy, even when you're sick? Those three micro habits you can do. Make them non-negotiable. Make sure you do them every day. Get a habit tracker.
Hmm.
Make that little grid, the weekly rhythm register. You can Google
Hmm.
it and download it.
Ooh,
I know that was hard to
throwing
say.
some words
Weekly
out
rhythm
there.
register, but keep those things on there so you can track your progress, and then just don't break the chain. Keep going. Get
Right.
that momentum.
You were
Uh,
really going after it. I like all those
weekly. That was
terms.
weekly rhythm register is really hard to say. I think we should call
And
Derek Hardy and have him rename
yes, your
that.
pronunciation was on point. I
Thank you
really liked it.
for having a cold. I'm doing all
Yeah.
right.
Your minimum is most people's maximum.
All
Let's put it
right.
that way, right?
I'll take that.
All
Thank you.
right. You're
And that
welcome.
wraps up this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. Have someone you know that's struggling with momentum. Share this with them so they can enjoy it. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.